years after 8 men died in the Iranian desert, Delta Force faced another impossible rescue. A single American imprisoned in the heart of Panama City, surrounded by hostile forces, under orders to be executed the moment an invasion began. The unit that failed at Desert One no longer existed. What had risen in its place was something entirely different, something rebuilt from failure, tested by a decade of silence, and about to prove whether the hardest lessons are the ones that change you or the ones that break you. This is the story of 17 minutes that would answer that question. Welcome to Chronicles of War. This is episode 3, 17 minutes. Operation Acid Gambit. There are rescues that nations celebrate. Hostages freed, soldiers returned, families reunited. The cameras arrive, the politicians speak. The world watches as men walk across tarmacs into freedom. And then there are rescues the world never sees. Missions so precise, so surgical, that by the time dawn breaks, the only evidence left behind is an empty cell and the distant echo of rotor blades fading into tropical darkness. This is the story of one such rescue. A mission that lasted 17 minutes. A mission that would prove whether the hardest lessons are the ones that change you or the ones that break you. December 1989, Panama City. The Modelo prison sits in the heart of Manuel Noriega's capital like a monument to control. Built during an earlier era, its walls have absorbed decades of heat, rain, and silence. Inside one of those walls, in a cell designed for isolation, an American waits. His name is Kurt Muse. He is not a soldier. He is not a spy in the traditional sense. He is a businessman who made the mistake of believing that information could be a weapon. He helped organize a clandestine radio network, broadcasting opposition messages into Noriega's Panama, undermining the regime from within. For this, he has been condemned. For this, he now sits in a cell with orders that are brutally simple. If American forces invade, if the regime begins to fall, Kurt Muse is to be executed immediately. He is insurance. He is leverage. He is a problem that Delta Force has been tasked to solve. 10 years have passed since Operation Eagle Claw. 10 years since 8 men died in the Iranian desert. 10 years since the wreckage of helicopters and transport planes became a symbol of American failure. In those 10 years, Delta Force did not retreat. It rebuilt. New selection standards, new communication protocols, new aircraft, new doctrine. The unit that emerged from the ashes of Eagle Claw was not the same unit that landed in Desert One. It was harder. It was smarter. It had learned what happens when planning is rushed, when intelligence is incomplete, when coordination fails. The men who now wore the Delta insignia understood something fundamental. Perfection is not a goal. It is a requirement. Because in their line of work, the margin between success and catastrophe is measured in seconds, and there are no second chances. Kurt Muse does not know that a rescue is being planned. He cannot know. The walls that hold him also isolate him from any hope that might keep him alive. But outside those walls, in facilities far from Panama, operators are studying every detail of his imprisonment. The layout of Modelo prison, the schedule of the guards, the thickness of the walls, the location of his cell on the second floor, the routes in, the routes out, the time it will take to breach the door, the time it will take to extract him, the probability of resistance, the fallback positions if resistance becomes overwhelming. This is not optimism, this is mathematics. Cold, relentless mathematics applied to a problem that has no room for error. The plan is called Operation Acid Gambit. It will be executed by operators from Delta Force's B Squadron. They will insert via MH-6 Little Bird helicopters, land directly on the roof of the prison, breach down into the structure, locate Muse, extract him, and evacuate under fire if necessary. The entire operation is expected to last less than 20 minutes. It must happen at night. It must happen in total surprise. And it must happen before the guards receive orders to execute their prisoner. The window of opportunity is vanishing. American forces are preparing for a full-scale invasion of Panama. When that invasion begins, Noriega's forces will retaliate against anything they can control. Kurt Muse is at the top of that list. The rescue must happen first. Training for Acid Gambit begins months before the actual mission. Delta operators construct a full-scale mock-up of Modelo Prison at their training facility. Every door, every hallway, every stairwell. They rehearse the assault again and again, refining movements, shaving seconds off each phase. Breaching teams practice on identical door frames. Pilots practice landing on structures designed to simulate the prison roof. Communication teams practice maintaining contact across multiple frequencies under simulated jamming. Medics practice treating casualties in confined spaces. Every variable that can be controlled is controlled. Every variable that cannot be controlled is planned for. The operators know that no plan survives first contact, but they also know that chaos favors the prepared. The men selected for this mission are not chosen for bravery. Bravery is assumed. They are chosen for precision, for the ability to move through darkness and violence with absolute clarity, for the capacity to make decisions in fractions of seconds that will determine whether a man lives or dies. These are not the soldiers you see in recruitment videos. These are technicians. Specialists in applied violence delivered with surgical intent. They do not speak about honor or glory. They speak about angles of fire, breach points, and exfiltration routes. They understand that the mission is not about them. It is about the man in the cell who does not know they are coming. December 20th, 1989, the night before the invasion of Panama, American forces are positioned throughout the country, waiting for the order to move. In the darkness, 6 MH-6 Little Birds lift off from their staging area, rotors cutting through humid air. Inside each aircraft, Delta operators sit in silence, weapons checked, minds focused. There is no conversation, no nervous energy, only the quiet certainty of men who have done this 1,000 times in training and are about to do it once in reality. The helicopters fly low, navigating through the night, invisible to radar, nearly invisible to the eye. Panama City appears ahead, a sprawl of lights and shadow. Somewhere in that city, Kurt Muse sits in his cell, unaware that his fate is being decided in the air above him. The little birds descend toward Modelo Prison. There is no announcement, no warning. The first indication the guards have that something is wrong is the sound of rotors directly overhead, impossibly close, impossibly loud. By the time they react, Delta operators are already on the roof. Breaching charges are placed, doors are blown. Operators move into the structure with absolute speed, flowing down stairwells, clearing rooms, advancing toward the second floor where Kurt Muse waits. The guards inside the prison are not prepared for this. They are not trained for this. Some resist, some flee, some freeze. The operators do not hesitate. Every movement is calculated. Every shot is deliberate. There is no chaos here. Only controlled aggression moving toward a single objective. Kurt Muse hears the explosions. He hears gunfire. He does not know what it means. It could be his execution. It could be a riot. It could be the end. Then his cell door explodes inward, and through the smoke and debris, he sees them. Americans, armed, professional, moving with a certainty that is almost inhuman. They do not ask his name. They do not explain. One operator grabs him, pulls him to his feet, and they are moving out of the cell, down the hallway, through the prison that has held him for months. He is in shock. He cannot process what is happening. He does not need to. The men around him have processed everything. They know where they are going. They know how to get there. And they know that the clock is running. The exfiltration does not go perfectly. Nothing ever does. As the operators move toward the roof with Muse, Panamanian defense forces outside the prison begin to mobilize. Gunfire erupts from surrounding buildings. The little bird designated to extract Muse takes heavy fire as it hovers above the prison. The pilot holds position, rotors screaming, rounds punching through the fuselage. Operators load Muse into the aircraft. The helicopter lifts off, struggling under the weight and the damage. It makes it less than a block before the engine fails. The little bird goes down hard, crashing into the street below. The operators and Muse survive the impact. Barely. They are now on foot, in hostile territory, with Panamanian forces closing in. This is the moment that separates the trained from the elite. There is no panic, no confusion. The operators establish a perimeter. They radio for backup. They engage targets with controlled fire, keeping the enemy at a distance while they wait for extraction. Kurt Muse, injured from the crash, is pulled into cover. He is no longer a prisoner. He is a responsibility. And Delta Force does not abandon its responsibilities. Minutes stretch. Gunfire intensifies. Then, through the smoke and noise, another helicopter appears. An MH-6 piloted by men who will not leave until every American is accounted for. The operators load Muse aboard. They climb in after him. The helicopter lifts off, taking fire, absorbing hits, but climbing into the night, away from the prison, away from the gunfire, away from Panama City. 17 minutes. From the moment the first operator touched the roof of Modelo prison to the moment Kurt Muse was airborne and safe, 17 minutes elapsed. No American fatalities, no hostages lost. One successful rescue against a regime that had promised execution. The operation that intelligence analysts had called high risk. The mission that required perfection. It had worked. Not because of luck, not because of overwhelming force, but because every second had been planned, every contingency had been considered, every operator had known exactly what was required and had delivered it without hesitation. But the story of Acid Gambit is not just about those 17 minutes. It is about the 10 years that preceded them, the lessons learned in the Iranian desert, the reforms implemented after Eagle Claw, the training that never stopped, the standards that never lowered. Delta Force did not become elite by attempting difficult missions. It became elite by refusing to accept failure as an option, by understanding that every mistake is a lesson, and every lesson must be absorbed completely. The men who rescued Kurt Muse were not the same men who landed at Desert One, but they carried the weight of that failure with them. They carried the names of the men who died, and they ensured that those deaths meant something. Operation Acid Gambit was never publicized. There were no press conferences, no medal ceremonies broadcast on television. Kurt Muse was quietly returned to the United States. The operators who saved him returned to their training. The helicopters were repaired. The reports were filed. And the mission became another entry in the classified history of a unit that operates in shadows. But within the special operations community, Acid Gambit became something else. It became proof. Proof that the doctrine worked, that the training worked, that the lessons of Eagle Claw had been learned and applied. It became a reference point for every mission that followed. In the years after Acid Gambit, Delta Force would be deployed in conflicts across the globe. Iraq, Somalia, Afghanistan, Syria. The names of the operations would change, the enemies would evolve, the technology would advance. But the principles established in Panama remained constant: precision over force, planning over improvisation, adaptation over rigidity. The unit that was born from the failures of the 1970s had become the standard by which all other special operations forces measured themselves, not because it never failed, but because it never stopped learning from failure. Kurt Muse lives today because 17 men executed a mission with absolute precision. But those 17 men succeeded because hundreds of others before them had failed, adapted, and rebuilt. Because commanders had looked at the wreckage in the Iranian desert and made a choice, not to hide from failure, not to make excuses, but to dissect it, to understand it, to ensure it never happened again. That is the legacy of Delta Force, not the missions that succeeded, but the willingness to learn from the missions that did not. History remembers battles. We remember how nations learn to survive. This is Chronicles of War. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel.